My goodness. Right off the
You can
bat.
separate
Near the front
it.
door.
You can separate. Don't touch the sides or anything.
No,
You can step in the platform, the little carpeted areas.
Sure.
As you go from past.
The front kind of reminds me of Warren Harding.
Mm-hmm. Now, he doesn't share a room with his wife. You see a picture over there over the bed. She's looking a little bit grim, isn't she? She has what we think is consumption or tuberculosis.
Okay.
For whatever reason, maintains a separate room upstairs. 80 to 85% original furnishings. Now, the wallpaper, when to treatments, floor coverings have been faithfully reproduced and replaced. Even the chamber set is original.
Oh.
Wow.
And what's this ornate wooden piece on the sidewalk?
Magazine holder.
Oh, is that what it
That's
is?
all it is.
Jeez.
It's pretty fancy. The school desk you see there with the open book on it, that was used by Johnson's grandsons at the White House, and we have it in here symbolically placed because, of course, Johnson never attended a day of school, ever. His wife did not teach him to read and write. That's a myth. She furthered his education because she was well educated, but he never set foot in a school.
That'd be a lot of kids' dreams today.
His canes you see there, and that's where you put your top hat, your overcoat, your bumper shoots on a rainy day. You come in through the front door and not through the porch door, and then once you're announced, you then go into the parlor visit with the Johnsons. So have a look in here.
Now, would that painting have been up there at that time?
Yes. Yeah. Now that's interesting. That's one of the few items that survived the occupation of the soldiers. That was painted in the 1850s by Samuel Shaver, and that went to the safekeeping of a neighbor before the family went to Washington. And this poor woman saddled with this gigantic portrait. What in the world is she going to do with it? Well, what she decides to do is wrap it in newspaper and to hide the image, and then leans it up against her fireplace, disguising it as a fire screen.
Oh, so she was
So
quite
when troops
clever.
ended up going through her house, never even gave it a second look. And we get it back in great shape.
That's really-
Eons later, and that is the original image with the original frame. You'll see a couple of political gifts here in the house, that tilt-top table. Interesting little table. That's a gift from the people of Ireland. It's a gaming table. Played a card game called euchre.
And then you could
It's
just
500 pieces of inlaid wood in it.
and then you could just slant it down to get it out of the way to make more room.
That's a real clever design. Fruit under glass there in the corner next to it. Now this little novelty gift given to the Johnsons by school kids in Philadelphia. Great little item. Above that in the corner, it looks like two pictures of Lincoln, doesn't it? At first glance.
Yeah, but
Portrait on the left is not a portrait, lithograph would be Lincoln, of course. The portrait on the right is Johnson's first son, Charles. Charles has an interesting story, and this is the only known image of him. Charles is nothing like Dad. He's a real laid-back sort of fella. He ends up in pharmaceuticals as a druggist, not interested in politics, which is very lucrative. Everybody's sick from something in those days, but unfortunately it's where he developed. Now that piano belonged to Martha, the first daughter, and it's through her descendants we get the house. Reason it's still here today, and it still sounds wonderful. Probably has never left this room. And she's got a lazy boy. Huh?
well, early recliner.
Every recliner today began life as the invalid's chair. That's what that's called. Same features, same design. And Eliza spends most of her time confined to this room when she lives here. At the White House, the same story. She won't come downstairs and act as First Lady for love nor money. Her daughters, Martha and Mary, have to come up and act in her place. They do a great job. They're called social hostesses. But Mama is not all that ill. You think with tuberculosis she's just really incapacitated. Not so. She sews and quilts. There's an example of her work there on the bed. A little brown quilt. She reads poetry. She keeps a scrapbook for her husband and plays with grandkids that come up with her daughters. Very reclusive.
So other than, again, it wasn't just the illness, she just didn't have the temperament for
Well, we don't
being
know.
a hostess?
Very
or-
mysterious woman here. She outlives him, by the way, by 6 months and dies at the age of 65. But what's particularly intriguing is that the descendants, before they turned the home over to us, made sure every letter and record about her was destroyed. So we have no information on her. That is very odd to do something like that. So we're going to do a little research. Hopefully somebody somewhere has a letter from a descendant, which was a friend of hers, because writing was all they did back then. Corner doorway, corner closet. Mary put those in when she was having the workmen remodel a house. How cool. That was not common in these houses.
Yeah, because usually it's dead space in a sense, a corner,
Right.
and so
Armoires.
she's getting use out of it.
Yeah, just that's a great idea. Little box there on the floor. That was a political gift given to Mrs. Johnson by the people of France, and it contained 40 pounds of chocolate candy.
I wonder why she never left this room. She was eating the chocolate.
Yeah, time eating chocolate. But y'all turn and look here. We have a little section of the wall free of wallpaper,
Oh, okay.
where the soldiers who were here left their comments about Johnson, because they knew it was Johnson's house. Can you read any of it?
Andrew Johnson.
The old
Traitor.
Traitor, huh?
That'd be a southern comment. Now below there you could barely make it out. It says, "Shame on you, Andy," which is right here. Shame on you, Andy. I guess that'd be another southern comment.
Well, at least they weren't too vulgar, per se. I'm sure there's other ones that are covered up.
Yeah, yeah. Thank goodness that section, which is easy for people to see, was one that was just fairly tame. We did take extensive photographs and you know, transcribed everything before we put the reproduction wallpaper up, so it's not lost. But across the way here, this is a guest room. This was used by the daughters when they'd come and visit. Originally, of course, like I said, this was set up for Mary. The adjunct rooms would be for Razor kids, but now these are all guest rooms. Wonderfully comfortable looking room.
corner closet.
Yep.
Another corner.
Yes, you put several in. You see their laptop computer over there on the table. It's called a traveling secretary. Girls were very well organized, thank goodness, and took care of a lot of letters, records, receipts for the family. Mother, of course, being, for some reason, non-participating.
So well, a lot of responsibility fell onto the daughters.
Oh,
in
yeah.
every
Yeah,
respect.
they really took care of things. Straw matting that you've seen here on the floors, that is reproduction matting of that which was installed in the house originally to act as a summer carpet.
Oh.
Very clever that, too. Very common in that time period. You don't want these heavy wool rugs down in the middle of summer sopping up more heat and moisture.
Yes. Oh.
Whew, adding to your misery. Even the mattresses are original on these beds. Isn't that amazing? Grandkids.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got a little bit.
Great
They
little
look-
room, little feather bed.
Looks like old-time Lincoln logs.
Before they were Lincoln logs.
I know.
Right.
Before
Those
they
were
were
played
Lincoln
with by
logs.
those Johnson grandkids. It's called, I think, Log Cabin Playhouse or something like that.
Yep, the log cabin play.
How cool.
Look at this little circus set.
Yeah, circus animals.
Big
The
blocks.
miniatures are little display models from a traveling furniture salesman. But they are in fabulous shape. But no fireplace, you notice that?
Yeah,
This room or
cement.
the next room. These additions, Mary didn't have the workmen put fireplaces in. We don't know why. But if you look at the baseboard molding, it goes behind the mantle.
Yeah. So what would they have done to heat this room?
Maybe she knew she was going to be moving out and didn't need the room. And maybe only would come back in the summer. We don't know.
She current those like the furnishings, the miniatures, those are
Yes.
salesman sample. So the guy would
Yeah.
travel. He couldn't take a whole big bureau with him, so he'd have a miniature
Yeah, and if the
sample.
person made a full-scale model purchase, he'd throw the model in for the kids because they were all handmade. Nothing was exactly the same. And of course, what he could get for a dresser like that, you know, is well worth his time to
Throwing in a little
throw in that for the
incentive.
kids. You bet.
Sweet, nice.
This room, it's got some pretty good furniture, and there's a picture of the second son there on the mantle. Got a much better story than it's got furniture, and this is the rascal son. Although Charles wasn't a prince, as you found out downstairs, but Robert here, he's the only son who follows in his father's political footsteps. He serves in the state legislature as a representative. During the Civil War, he becomes a colonel in the 1st Tennessee Cavalry. He's raising a regiment for the troops. That's a very responsible position, and his dad is awful proud of him. But then we do have the accident with his brother. Brother Charles, the one who was thrown from a horse and killed. Robert is the only one in the family who can take care of the funeral arrangements for his brother. And it just tore him to pieces, as it would any of us. And Robert also had a bit of a drinking problem before this happened. But afterward, of course, it completely threw him over the edge. He has to end up resigning his commission as colonel within a year, because he's just lost it. Now, his father tries to help him out, gives him a little private secretary job there at the White House. you know, it's a little no-brainer job, but Robert's drinking just escalates. And he's also bringing ladies of the evening into his office in front of his dad's visitors. Day in and day out. And of course the press think this is wonderful. They're having a good time with this. And Andrew, by this point, is furious. Enough already. He confers with his staff. They quickly come up with a different job title for Robert, and they're thinking a fact-finding mission to study the slave trade. That sounds pretty good, right?
Yeah.
In Asia and Africa. That's real good. That's halfway across the world.
Put him, yes, get him out of there.
Oh boy. Now Robert, you know, agrees to go. He doesn't have much say-so in the matter, and his bags are packed, all the paperwork's made out, everything is set to sail, except for the ship. That ship sits in port for days, for weeks, months go by. Always some repair needing on the ship. Robert's been patiently, nervously waiting to go. Now, what are you going to do if you sit around thinking about something that you were forced to do? You don't want to really do it anyway. You're going to find some way to get out of it.
Yeah, just gonna
That's
flee.
what he did. He backed out. And his father is exasperated by now. Ultimately, Robert has to be played. Where in the world these people eat? Dining room, good place for it. Next door, the kitchen. Downstairs, the slave quarters. However, a year after they moved here initially, see, 1851 is when they purchased the house, but in 1852, Mother has a fifth child. She's 42 years old. That could explain a few things. But at any rate, when this young man, this boy, becomes old enough, they got to give him his own room. So guess what? One more bedroom. It's pretty, you'll like it. Good looking furniture. They had to move everything over to accommodate him. This has not been put on. Remember, this upstairs part. So the dining room becomes his room, and then the kitchen becomes the dining room, and the slave quarters becomes the kitchen. So, Andrew Johnson Jr.'s room. They don't call this one, they don't give him a nickname of Junior or Little Andy. What's his nickname?
I don't know.
Frank.
Yeah, oh, is it?
Yeah. What on earth were they thinking? We don't know where they came up with that. Frank it is. Frank Johnson. You see a picture of him there on the mantle. But this was the dining room. You can see that chair rail. You know what a chair rail is for, right?
That's
Running
right.
around on the wall.
Oh, to protect the wall
Exactly.
from banging, the cheese
Right.
banging against him.
That is beautiful cottage furniture with the original paint. After all this time.
So that was his actual furniture?
That's it.
Well, a little fancy, huh?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Now, a little bit about Frank. He is born almost 19 years younger than Robert, or after Robert. Of course, Robert and Charles, as young adults, sort of showing their true direction early on. They're keeping a very close watch on this boy. No problems at all with him. None. In fact, we fast forward 16 years. He's up in Washington, you know, Dad's president. And he is attending Georgetown College. He's getting preparatory courses, getting ready to go to college full time. So he doesn't come home with the family when they come back in 1869 because he's at school. Looking at beds. Thank goodness, huh?
There we go.
Here we have the dining room. Was the kitchen, look at the big cooking hearth. Put half a horse in there, couldn't you?
Yeah.
The soldiers might have when they were here. But now it's the official dining room. That is the original cherry dining room table. The chairs have just been put in around it. Those disappeared early on. But look at the corner closets. I mean, they're functional. They're not very big, though, are they? Mary put 2 in here. She went corner closet crazy. Pantry that was already there with the kitchen, so there's plenty of room for storage in here. But it's a very nice eating area. It's quite understated. I mean, it's not super elegant.
Right.
It's
Right. Yeah.
pretty upscale.
Sufficient. Now this lighting, is this?
Original, but not to the house.
Okay.
That was brought in. Ceiling fixtures and straight back chairs, they seem to disappear early on. No matter the family's, you know,
Yeah.
trying to hold on to these original items. The silver set on the left, the ornate set, that is a wedding present given by the Johnsons to some family friends. Those descendants returned it to us for display purposes, so how cool is that?
So,
We get a glimpse into what they chose as an
Right.
upscale gift, top of the line.
Huh.
And the silver set directly in front of us, a political gift, and there's several in the house that we've seen. That was a water set given to the Johnsons when he was military governor by the loyal white citizens of Nashville. It's actually inscribed on there that way. So political correctness,
Mm-hmm.
not in place at that time. Okay, we had the official kitchen. It was the slave quarters. Originally, with nothing else being in here, this housed 5 house slaves.
5 people
5
living
people.
in this room.
2 adults, 3 kids.
Mhm.
Dolly and her 3 small kids and her half-brother Sam, and I'm sure being at the beck and call of the family, they're not down here very much except to sleep. Actually, pretty good size for house slaves, having no belongings at all. But now it's the official kitchen. Of course, when everything was moved over, they did quarter, as we understand it, out here on the grounds. They had some little dwelling out here for them, and then when they were emancipated in 1863, they came right back as paid help and lived in town, just like anybody would. Treated very, very well. Their descendants ended up in Knoxville, from what we understand. But this looks like a rather plain setup, you think, compared to the rest of the house. It looks kind of primitive. But this is all cutting-edge technology in that time period. This is it. This is the best that money could buy. Very functional. Nobody went away from the table hungry. We see the washer dryer over on the right.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they needed. Yeah.
That's the washer and the dryer.
Well, the dryer actually would be anywhere out here.
Yeah, so they're just like a
I know,
ringer,
you
you
could
run the
bring
clothes
all
through
the
it.
water out to where it's practically dry.
Yeah.
Very nice setup. But have a look out here in the yard. I know you're going to catch some glare off that wayside.
That's right.
Originally a 1/2 to 3/4 acre town lot, and it's about 2 to 2.5 acres now. Johnson picked up more property as time went on and money allowed, and he had real estate holdings in town, rental property, made some wise investments when he was in Washington. So when he died in 1875, at least something went right for him. He did die the richest man in Greeneville.
Oh.
So my goodness gracious. Yeah, his estate valued at between $75,000 and $200,000, which is a lot of money in that time period. That is a
Got a
huge
big tree,
That's a
yeah.
pecan tree,
Okay.
and it puts out delicious nuts. Some years better than others. But what a beautiful piece of property. He actually has 3 bodies of water. He's got the spring, where the spring house was. You see what that fence is.
Dun, 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 dun. We're live here at Andrew Johnson National Cemetery in Greeneville, Tennessee. It is here that the 17th President, Andrew Johnson, is buried, with his wife, Eliza, and his several children. Johnson became president after President Lincoln was shot in 1865. And as you may see up there on the obelisk up there is an eagle standing on an American flag. The eagle represents his loyalty to the Union, and we will show you later that there is a Bible up there. Last night, my dad and I, while the cemetery was closed, we went through a walk-in gate and came up here and jumped over the gates and touched the obelisk. When he was a young boy, Andrew Johnson was apprenticed to a tailor. Several years later, he ran away And when he was a teenager, he came back to gather his family and bring them here to Tennessee. He stopped here in Greeneville, named after the Revolutionary War hero Nathaniel Greene of Rhode Island. And he opened his own tailor shop, which is currently in the Andrew Johnson Visitor Center at Depot and College Streets. In 1875, several years after his term had ended, Andrew Johnson died of a stroke on July 31st, 6 months after his wife Eliza died. As you can see also, you may see a hand on a Bible above the inscriptions of Andrew's name and his wife. And above the Bible is the Constitution. The Constitution, because when he was president, he tried so hard to preserve it. This is a date of my it's the 29th presidential grave my dad and I have been to. Who knows who the 30th will be? But first, we are going to go to Graceland in Memphis. See you tomorrow.
This is a view from the side of President Johnson's gravesite.